The last thing I remembered was betrayal. A familiar face. A man I had trusted. Then darkness. I thought I was dead. But when I opened my eyes again, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe properly. And someone was kicking me. What the hell? Then I heard voices outside. The first baby still hasn't moved. If she doesn't come out soon, both twins could be in danger. Twins. For a few seconds, my mind went blank. Then I understood. I wasn't in a hospital bed. I was inside someone's womb. I had been reborn. As a baby, in my previous life, I had been a famous business and tech tycoon. I had built companies, controlled billions, and survived countless corporate wars. And now, I couldn't even turn around properly. Beside me was another baby, my twin sister. She was supposed to come out first, but she wasn't moving. The doctors were getting nervous. If we wait any longer, both babies may suffocate. Absolutely not. I had already died once. I wasn't dying again before I even took my first breath. I pushed against the cramped space. Nothing. So I gathered every bit of strength in my tiny body and kicked my sister hard. Outside, a doctor shouted, "She's moving." Good. Another contraction came. My sister finally disappeared downward. Seconds later, a loud cry echoed through the room. "The girl is out." I almost laughed. "You're welcome, little sister." Then it was my turn. Pressure crushed my body. Everything went dark. And suddenly, cold air hit my skin. Someone lifted me up. Why isn't this little boy crying? Smack. Pain exploded across my backside. My eyes flew open. I stared at the nurse. She stared back. "Why is this baby looking at me like that?" "Because you just slapped a former billionaire on the ass. That's why." I wanted to curse her. Instead, wah, perfect. I had been reborn for less than a minute and already lost all dignity. Then a soft voice came from nearby. "Bring him to me." The nurse carried me over. I was placed into a warm pair of arms. A beautiful but exhausted woman looked down at me. "My baby." She smiled. "A mommy. Mommy." That single word hit harder than I expected. In my previous life, I had money, power, status, but no real family. When I died, nobody was waiting beside me. Nobody held my hand. Nobody cried because they were losing a son. But now this woman was looking at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. My little Ran. Her fingers gently touched my face. "Welcome to the world." My eyes suddenly became wet. Damn it. I wasn't supposed to cry. But maybe this time was different. Maybe this life really was a second chance. After the nurses cleaned us, my twin sister and I were carried outside. The moment the doors opened, an old man rushed toward us. My grandson. Behind him stood several girls. One leaned forward. "He's wrinkly." Another laughed. "He looks like a little monkey." "Excuse me." I slowly turned my head toward the girl who said it. I remembered her face immediately. We would settle this later. Soon, I figured out who everyone was. The old man was my grandfather. Apparently, the Lin family hadn't had a boy in generations. That meant my birth had instantly turned me into the family's most precious child. And I had 6 sisters. The eldest was calm and responsible. The second was quiet and cold. The third, Lin Shuyang, the girl who had just called me ugly. I stared at her. Yes, definitely remember that one. My newborn twin sister was the youngest. She slept peacefully beside me. I looked at her and sighed internally. I save your life and you immediately take a nap. Unbelievable. Then I noticed something strange. Where was my father? Everyone was fighting over who got to hold me, but my own dad wasn't there. A few seconds later, the delivery room door opened. A man rushed out. He didn't even look at me. "Is my wife okay?" The nurse nodded. "She's fine." Only then did he relax. Grandpa shouted, "Your son is here." My father glanced at me. "Oh, good." Then immediately asked, "When can I see my wife?" I stared at him. So that's my dad. Apparently, even the long-awaited male heir came second to his wife. Strangely, I respected that. When my mother was finally wheeled out, father immediately took her hand. My grandfather stood beside them. My sisters crowded around. My twins slept nearby. The hallway was loud, chaotic, and strangely warm. I looked at this family. In my previous life, I had built an empire. But I had never had this. Maybe being reborn wasn't punishment. Maybe it was a gift. The man who killed me still didn't know I was alive again. That was fine. I had time. I would grow up. And one day, I would find him. But before I could think any further, a familiar, annoying voice appeared above me. Hey, ugly baby. I opened my eyes. Lin Shuyang was leaning over my crib. She smiled. Did you miss your third sister? I stared at her silently. Maybe revenge didn't have to wait that long after all. Being reborn as the Lin family's precious little prince had one major advantage. Nobody suspected me of anything. To everyone else, I was just an adorable baby. To me, that was basically a license to commit crimes, especially against my third sister, Lin Shuyang. Hey, ugly baby. She said it almost every time she saw me. At first, I ignored her. Then my first tooth came in. That changed everything. One afternoon, Shuyang leaned over my crib and squeezed my cheek. Look at that face. Still ugly. I grabbed her wrist. She laughed. What are you going to do? Bite me? Exactly. I sank my tiny teeth into her arm. Ah! Her scream echoed through the entire house. She jumped backward while I sat there calmly. A perfect row of tiny tooth marks appeared on her skin. Mom! She nearly cried. He bit me. Mother rushed over. Ran is just a baby. He did it on purpose. Everyone laughed. Shuyang stared at me furiously. I gave her my most innocent smile. 1-year-old babies couldn't plan revenge. Everyone knew that, right? From that day on, our war officially began. Sometimes she pinched my cheeks. Sometimes I spat milk on her clothes. Once, she spent an entire evening finishing her math homework. When she went upstairs to change after I accidentally spit milk on her shirt, I quietly crawled over and stuffed her homework behind the sofa cushions. The next morning, she nearly destroyed the living room looking for it. I did it last night. Father frowned. Then where is it? I don't know. Suddenly, she looked at me. I was sitting nearby, drinking milk. Her eyes narrowed. You. I blinked innocently. You hid it. Father's expression immediately darkened. Shuyang. But Dad, you're blaming a 1-year-old baby for losing your homework. She pointed at me. He understands everything. I took another sip of milk, then smiled. Shuyang looked like she wanted to explode. In the end, nobody believed her. Naturally. After all, I was just a baby. Around my first birthday, the family began preparing a huge celebration. Grandfather wanted half the business world invited. I wanted absolutely none of it. Everyone kept trying to entertain me with toys. I refused. Ran. Come play. No. Ran. Look. A little car. No. Ran. Chase your sister. Absolutely not. I had once run multinational companies. I was not spending my afternoon crawling after plastic toys. Then my eldest sister, Lin Shuwin, entered the room. Why isn't he ready yet? Behind her stood someone I had never seen before. A girl. She looked several years older than me. Calm. Elegant. Almost unnaturally composed for someone her age. She had clear eyes and a cold expression that made everyone else instinctively keep their distance. I stared. For the first time since being reborn, I completely forgot I was supposed to be a dignified former tycoon. I lifted both arms. Pick me up. The girl frowned, then took one step backward. I froze. Did she just reject me? Nobody rejected me. Not in my old life. And definitely not now. I immediately stared harder. Interesting. Woman, you have successfully gotten my attention. My eldest sister noticed what I wanted. She laughed. Oh, Ran likes Yenchu. So her name was Shu Yenchu. Before Yenchu could object, Shu Win picked me up and placed me directly into her arms. The moment I landed there, I wrapped both arms around her. She stiffened. Everyone went silent. Usually, I hated being held by strangers. Sometimes I cried if people touched me too much. But now I was clinging to Yenchu like my life depended on it. Grandfather laughed. Looks like our little prince has chosen someone. I looked up at Yenchu, then kissed her cheek. The room exploded. Ran. My sisters shouted at the same time. Shu Win stared at Yenchu like she had personally betrayed the family. I brought you here as my friend. Shuyang pointed at her. And now you're stealing our little brother. Even Lin Rue, who rarely showed emotion, suddenly looked colder. Yanchu's cheeks turned slightly pink. She looked down at me. I smiled proudly. Excellent. My first romantic victory in this life. Later that afternoon came the traditional first birthday choosing ceremony. Grandfather placed me in front of a table covered with objects. Money, books, pen, jewelry, antiques. All of them supposedly represented what kind of future I would have. Everyone watched excitedly. Which one will Rand choose? Probably money, maybe the pen. I stared at the table. Boring. I had already owned more money than most people could imagine. Why would I crawl toward fake cash? Then I spotted Yanchu standing nearby. Much better. I immediately started crawling toward her. My twin sister grabbed the back of my clothes. I looked over my shoulder. Seriously, she refused to come out of the womb without my help. And now she wanted to stop me. I kicked her hand away and continued crawling. Ran. Everyone laughed. I ignored every object on the table. Then I reached Yanchu and grabbed her hand. The room fell quiet. Grandfather stared, then suddenly burst out laughing. So that's what he wants. My sisters immediately looked alarmed. Mother covered her mouth. Amused, someone asked, "Does that count?" Grandfather nodded. Of course it counts. Then his expression changed slightly, almost as if he had remembered something. Actually, he looked toward Yanchu. This reminds me of an old promise. The adults became quiet. Grandfather explained that the Lin and Shu families had been close for generations. Years ago, the two families had made an agreement. If one family had a son and the other had a daughter, the children would marry. But things hadn't gone according to plan. The Lin family kept having daughters. Yanchu's mother passed away after giving birth. Eventually, everyone stopped talking about the old promise. Until now, Grandfather looked at me holding Yanchu's hand, then smiled. Maybe fate remembered it for us. My eyes lit up. Marriage. To her. Excellent. I had only been alive for 1 year and apparently I'd already solved one of life's biggest problems. My sisters looked horrified. Shuyang whispered, "We're losing him." Shu Wen looked genuinely regretful. I should never have brought her here. I tightened my grip on Yanchu's finger. Too late. She's mine now. Grandfather laughed. Yanchu, what do you think? Should we make little Ran your future husband? Before Yanchu could answer, a loud voice came from behind us. Absolutely not. Everyone turned. A handsome young boy stood near the doorway. His face was tense. His eyes were fixed on Yanchu. Then he pointed at me. They can't get engaged. I narrowed my eyes. Who was this idiot? The boy took a breath, then announced in front of everyone. Because Shu Yanchu is already my girlfriend. Silence. My tiny fingers slowly tightened around Yanchu's hand. Girlfriend. I stared at him. I had been alive for 1 year. And somehow, I already had a love rival. Fine. If he wanted a war, he had one. The room went silent. Because Shu Yanchu is already my girlfriend. I stared at the boy across from me. Girlfriend. I had been reborn for only 1 year. And somehow I already had a rival. His name was Feng Yunan. He stepped closer and smiled confidently. Yanchu and I have known each other for years. Then he looked down at me. Besides, he's just a baby. The guests began whispering. I knew exactly what they were thinking. Feng was older, handsome, and could actually speak. I was still wearing baby clothes. So what? Give me a few years. Unfortunately, all I could say was, yeah. Feng laughed. See, he doesn't even understand marriage. Then he crouched down and pinched my cheek. Little guy, wives aren't toys. I slowly looked at his hand. Bad decision. I leaned forward and bit him. Feng jumped back. Tiny teeth marks appeared on his arm. The room burst into laughter. I sat there calmly in Yanchu's arms. Serves you right. Feng's face twisted with anger, but he quickly turned toward Yanchu. Tell them. He lowered his voice. Tell them we're together. Yanchu looked at him coldly. We're not. Feng froze. What? I've never dated you. The entire hall went quiet again. Yanchu continued. You following me around doesn't make you my boyfriend. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Feng's face turned pale. I was only trying to help you. Yanchu said nothing. Humiliated, Feng finally snapped. Fine. Then marry the baby. He stormed out. I watched him leave with satisfaction. First battle, won. Grandfather returned to the engagement. But Yanchu didn't immediately agree. Ran is still too young. She looked at the adults. What if he grows up and likes someone else? I don't want an old promise to trap him. I stared at her. Someone else. Not happening. Still, I understood what she meant. She wasn't rejecting me. She was thinking about my future. Mother smiled. Then we don't need to rush. Before anyone could continue, a man entered the hall. Yanchu immediately straightened. Father. It was Shu Chun. His expression was cold. The first thing he said was, Yanchu, apologize. Grandfather frowned. For what? My daughter caused trouble at your celebration. I immediately became angry. She hadn't caused anything. But before I could do much, I tried crawling toward him and nearly fell from the table. Lin Rui caught me just in time. Grandfather took me from her and, for some reason, placed me directly into Shu Chen's arms. We stared at each other. I grabbed his suit, then wiped drool all over it. Shuyang burst out laughing. Finally, someone else got it. Shu Chen's expression darkened. Yanchu quickly took me back. Father, he's only a baby. Exactly. A completely innocent baby. After the tension faded, Shu Chen finally explained himself. Years ago, Yanchu's late mother had been very close to my mother. The marriage promise between our families had been important to her. Shu Chen looked at Yanchu, then at me. If Yanchu has no objection. He paused. I won't oppose it. Grandfather immediately smiled. Good. Mother looked pleased. My sisters looked devastated. Shuyang whispered, we're actually losing him. I ignored her, because I had heard the important part. The engagement was approved. I looked up at Yanchu. She gently tapped my forehead. You look very happy. Of course I was. A loving family. A second chance. And now a future wife. My new life was going surprisingly well. But a few months later, I discovered a problem. My twin sister learned to say, Mommy, then, Daddy. Soon, she could call everyone in the family. And me, nothing. No matter how hard I tried, I could only make meaningless sounds. Yeah, well. First, I thought I just needed more time. But months passed. Nothing changed. One night, I stared at myself in the mirror. In my previous life, I had negotiated billion-dollar deals. Now I couldn't even say one word. For the first time since being reborn, I felt afraid. What if this body really couldn't speak? My twin sister learned to talk before I did. Mommy. The entire room exploded. Mother immediately picked her up. Say it again. Mommy. Everyone cheered. I sat nearby in complete silence. Then she learned. Daddy. Sister. Grandpa. Every new word earned applause. And me. Still nothing. I opened my mouth. Yeah, that was it. Lin Shuyang leaned over me with a grin. Even your little sister can talk now. I glared at her. Come on. Say third sister. I tried. Nothing useful came out. Her smile got wider. For once, I didn't feel like biting her. I just lowered my head. That surprised everyone. Usually, I fought back whenever Shuyang teased me. But this time, I had nothing. In my previous life, words had been one of my greatest weapons. I negotiated contracts, destroyed competitors in boardrooms, convinced investors to risk billions on my ideas. Now I couldn't even say Mom. What kind of joke was this? Maybe there was something wrong with this body. Maybe I really would never speak. Mother noticed my expression. She handed my sister to Lin Rui, then picked me up, ran. I looked away. She gently touched my cheek. It doesn't matter. I looked back at her. Even if you never learn to speak. She smiled. You'll still be Mommy's precious little boy. My chest tightened. She continued. You don't have to prove anything to us. For a moment, I forgot how angry I was. In my previous life, people only stayed around me because I was useful, because I was successful, because I had money. If I stopped winning, they disappeared. But this family, they loved me even when they thought I might never speak. I buried my face against Mother's shoulder. Fine. If being silent was the price for having this family, maybe I could accept it. Time passed. Spring became autumn. I turned 2, and I still couldn't speak properly. By then, Grandfather's 70th birthday was only a week away. The entire family was discussing gifts. Shuyang stretched lazily across the sofa. Why don't we wrap Ran in a box and give him to Grandpa? I immediately bit her hand. Ow! She pulled back. You little dog. I stared at her. Terrible joke. Grandfather deserved something better. That night, after everyone went to sleep, I quietly climbed out of bed. Then I made my way into the study. In my previous life, I had practiced calligraphy for years. I had even won awards. My body was different now. My hands were tiny, but the skill was still in my head. I climbed onto a chair, then carefully prepared paper, ink, and brush. My hand shook badly. Still, after several minutes, one character appeared on the paper. Longevity. It wasn't perfect. Actually, it was slightly crooked, but that was good. If a 2-year-old suddenly produced master-level calligraphy, people would start asking questions. I rubbed my aching wrist. Good enough. At least, that's what I tried to say. Came out as nonsense. I sighed. Then I climbed down. My foot slipped. Bam! I landed on the floor. Pain shot through my body. I clenched my teeth and refused to cry. Unfortunately, the chair had made enough noise. The study door suddenly opened. My eldest sister, Lin Shu-win, rushed inside. Ran. She saw me sitting on the floor. What are you doing here? She quickly picked me up. Are you hurt? I shook my head. Then her eyes moved toward the desk. The paper had fallen onto the floor. Shu-win picked it up. She stared at the character. Then she looked at my ink-covered fingers. Her expression slowly changed. Ran. I froze. Did you write this? I immediately shook my head. Too fast. Her eyes narrowed. She looked at the paper again. Then at me. You did. I shook my head harder. She suddenly smiled. My little brother is a genius. No. No. She stood up. I need to tell Mom and Dad. I grabbed her collar with both hands. She stopped. I shook my head desperately. Don't tell them. I nodded. Finally, she understood something. Shu-win smiled. You want it to be a surprise for Grandpa. I froze. Not exactly. I just didn't want anyone asking why a 2-year-old could write calligraphy. But explaining that was impossible. So I slowly nodded. She carefully folded the paper. Fine. Then she tapped my nose. I'll keep your secret. I stared at her. Somehow, I didn't trust that smile. Still, at least the secret was safe for now. A week later, Grandfather's birthday banquet arrived. The house was packed with guests, but I only cared about one person. I searched the crowd. Where was Yenchu? Then I finally saw her. She stood near the entrance beside her father. My mood instantly improved. 1 year had passed since we'd last met. She looked taller, more elegant, still cold, still beautiful. I immediately walked toward her. Well, walked might have been generous. I stumbled twice before reaching her. Yenchu looked down at me, then smiled. You can walk now. I grabbed her hand. Of course, I had been practicing. Before I could enjoy the reunion, another familiar figure appeared behind her. Feng Yunan. I frowned. Not him again. He looked down at me, then smiled. Still can't talk. My expression darkened. He knew exactly where to hit, but before I could react, Grandfather's voice echoed through the hall. Everyone. The birthday celebration was beginning. Guests gathered around. Gifts were being brought forward one after another. I looked toward the crowd. For some reason, a strange feeling crawled through my chest, like something important was about to happen, something connected to my previous life. I didn't know it yet, but before this birthday ended, I would finally speak, and the first clear words to leave my mouth would shock everyone. Grandfather's 70th birthday banquet was packed with people, business partners, family friends, guests I didn't recognize, but I wasn't interested in any of them. I only cared about Shu Yenchu. The moment I saw her near the entrance, I forgot about everyone else. I immediately waddled toward her. Yenchu looked down at me. You've gotten taller. I grabbed her hand. Obviously, I had been growing for an entire year. Then a familiar voice ruined the moment. Still can't talk. I turned. Feng Yunan. Of course. He smiled at me like he had been waiting all year to say that. 2 years old already. He crouched slightly, and still nothing. My face darkened. Yenchu glanced at him. Enough. Feng shrugged. I'm just asking. No, he wasn't. He knew exactly what bothered me most. I wanted to insult him. Unfortunately, yeah, that was all I could manage. Feng smiled. I hated him immediately. Again. Not long after, everyone gathered around the main hall. Grandfather was receiving gifts. I stayed close to Yanchu. Feng stayed annoyingly close too. Then he stepped toward a nearby table. His hand brushed against it. A glass of juice tipped over. Yanchu reacted instantly. She picked me up before the glass crashed to the floor. Crash. Glass shattered everywhere. I was safe, but juice splashed across my clothes. I looked down. A huge yellow stain covered the outfit Mother had chosen for me. Seriously, I had wanted to look good today. Feng rushed over. Oh no. His face was full of fake concern. Ran, are you okay? I stared at him. He had done it on purpose. I had seen the movement. So had Yanchu. But Feng smiled like an angel. I'm so sorry. It was an accident. Accident. Fine. Two could play that game. A few minutes later, Feng walked past me. I moved one small foot. Just enough. His ankle caught. His eyes widened. Then, bam, he hit the floor. Several guests quickly turned away to hide their laughter. Feng's face went red. I immediately ran toward Yanchu and hugged her leg. Then I looked up with my biggest innocent eyes. Me. I did nothing. Yanchu stared down at me. She had seen everything. I knew it. For a second. I thought she would expose me. Instead, she said nothing. Feng climbed back to his feet. His knees were scraped. His pride was worse. He stormed away without another word. I smiled. Justice. Simple. Efficient. Beautiful. But when I looked up again, Yanchu was still watching me. Her expression said one thing very clearly. I know exactly what you did. I suddenly felt less proud. Mother soon noticed the stain on my clothes. Oh, Ran. She sighed. Come on. Let's change you. She carried me into a dressing room. I wasn't worried. At least Feng was gone. For now. Mother had just started changing my clothes when the door opened. My eldest sister walked in. Mom, Grandpa is asking. Then someone entered behind her. Shu Yanchu. I froze. No. No. I was halfway changed. My shirt was off. And Yanchu was standing right there. My adult mind immediately took control. I crossed both arms over my chest. Then tried to hide behind Mother. Everyone stared at me. My eldest sister laughed. Why are you hiding? I glared at her. Why do you think? Yanchu's eyes softened slightly. She looked amused. That made it worse. I wanted to tell them to get out. I wanted to yell. I wanted to protect what little dignity I still had. I opened my mouth. And suddenly, the words came out. Clear. Perfect. Get out. The room froze. I froze too. My mother slowly turned toward me. My sister's smile disappeared. Yanchu stopped moving. For 2 full seconds. Nobody said anything. Then my sister whispered. Ran. I stared at her. She stared back. You. Her eyes widened. You talked. I opened my mouth again. Nothing came out at first. Then. Another clear word. Mother covered her mouth. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. Ran can talk. I looked at her. Wait. Could. My sister suddenly screamed. Ran can talk. My ears almost exploded. She rushed toward the door. I'm telling everyone. I tried to stop her. Too late. She was gone. I slowly looked toward Yanchu. Her cheeks had turned slightly pink. She avoided my eyes. That somehow embarrassed me even more. Great. After 2 years of silence. My first real words happened while I was half-dressed in front of my future wife. Perfect. What a legendary beginning. 10 minutes later, Mother walked me back into the main hall. Everyone already knew. Grandfather rushed over. Ran. Father stood behind him. My sisters surrounded me. Even people I had never seen before were looking at me. Say something. Come on. Ran. Call Grandpa. Say sister. Too many voices. I immediately regretted learning how to talk. Grandfather crouched in front of me. His eyes were wet. Ran. He smiled. Can you say Grandpa? I looked at him. For months, I had wondered if I would ever speak. This family had never treated me differently. Not once. Mother had loved me. Father had protected me. Grandfather had spoiled me. My sisters had annoyed me. but they had loved me too. So this time, I didn't resist. I took a breath. Grandpa. The old man's face completely changed. His smile became enormous. Again. Grandpa. He picked me up immediately. Good. The entire family erupted. My sisters screamed. Mother cried. Father smiled. Grandfather looked like he had just won the lottery. And for once, I didn't mind the attention. Maybe this was what happiness felt like. Real happiness. Not winning a contract. Not beating a competitor. Just watching people celebrate because I had finally said one word. Grandfather held me tightly. Today is my best birthday. I smiled. Then he pointed toward the gift table. Ran. Choose anything you want. I looked over. Antiques. Jewelry. Rare objects. Expensive gifts. None of them interested me much. But then, my eyes stopped. Someone had just entered the hall. A man in an expensive suit. Calm. Confident. Familiar. My smile disappeared. My entire body went cold. No, couldn't be. But I knew that face. I had seen it before. In another life. Right before everything I had built was taken from me. Right before I died. My tiny hands slowly curled into fists. Ojun, the man who killed me, was standing less than 20 feet away. Ojun. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. The hall was still full of laughter. Grandfather was holding me. My sisters were still celebrating because I had finally learned to speak. But I couldn't hear any of it anymore. All I could see was him, the man walking calmly through the crowd. The man wearing an expensive suit and a polite smile. The man who had killed me in my previous life. My fingers slowly tightened. Memories flashed through my mind. My company collapsing. People turning against me. The final betrayal. And Ojun standing there, watching it happen. Ran. My eldest sister touched my arm. I didn't respond. She followed my gaze. What are you looking at? I forced myself to relax. Not now. I was 2 years old. I had a small body. No company. No personal army. No power of my own. If I exposed too much emotion, people would start asking questions I couldn't answer. So I smiled. A child's smile. And waited. Ojun walked toward grandfather. Mr. Lin. His voice was smooth. Happy 70th birthday. Grandfather's smile became noticeably colder. Interesting. So even in this life, people didn't trust him. Ojun gestured toward one of his assistants. A beautiful gift box was brought forward. I heard you appreciate antiques. He opened it. Inside was a porcelain piece. Several guests immediately leaned closer. Someone whispered, "That's incredible." Another said, "That could be worth a fortune." Ojun smiled. A small gift. Small. I almost laughed. Nothing about Ojun was ever simple. Grandfather looked at the porcelain. Then at him. You didn't need to bring something so valuable. Ojun's smile didn't change. It's only right. I stared at the antique. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. In my previous life, I had collected antiques for years. Not because I loved showing off. Because rare objects were investments. I had spent enough time with experts to recognize details most people missed. The glaze, the shape, the markings, the aging. At first glance, the porcelain looked impressive. A second glance, I knew. Fake. Not just questionable. Fake. Completely fake. My eyes narrowed. So that was his game. He had brought a counterfeit antique to the Lin family's most important birthday celebration. If grandfather accepted it and later displayed it publicly, sooner or later someone would expose it. Then rumors would spread. The Lin family couldn't even recognize a fake. The great Lin patriarch had accepted cheap trash as treasure. And Ojun, he would claim he had been deceived too. Clean hands. Maximum humiliation. Classic. Exactly the kind of move he loved. I looked up at him. Some people really never changed. Grandfather noticed me staring. Ran. He smiled. Do you like it? Everyone looked toward me. Ojun did too. His eyes landed on my face. For the first time in this life, my killer looked directly at me. He had no idea who I was. No idea that the man he once betrayed was sitting in grandfather's arms. No idea that I remembered everything. I smiled at him, then shook my head. No. The hall became quiet. Grandfather blinked. You don't like it? No. Ojun laughed lightly. Children usually prefer toys. I looked at him. You have no idea. Grandfather seemed amused. Then what don't you like about it? I pointed at the porcelain. Bad. A few guests chuckled. Ojun smiled too. He's very direct. But I saw it. A tiny change in his eyes. Nervousness. Just for a second. That was enough. He knew exactly what he had brought. I looked back at the porcelain. This was perfect. I couldn't destroy Ojun yet. I couldn't expose my past. But I could do something else. I could ruin his plan. Right here. Right now. I reached toward the gift. Grandfather lowered me slightly. Careful. Ojun stepped forward. Perhaps he shouldn't touch. Too late. My hands closed around the porcelain. The room went still. It was heavier than I expected. My body was only 2 years old. But I didn't need much strength. Just enough. Ojun's smile finally disappeared. Wait. I looked straight into his eyes, then smiled. For the first time since seeing him again, I felt calm. In my previous life, he had taken everything from me. This time, he was about to lose his first battle. To a toddler, I lifted the porcelain above my head. Grandfather's eyes widened. Ran. Ojun took another step forward. Stop him. I tightened my grip. No, this was just the beginning. I brought my hands down and prepared to smash his perfect little trap into pieces. Crash. The porcelain hit the floor. The sound echoed through the entire hall. For 1 second, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Everyone just stared at the shattered pieces scattered across the floor. Then the room exploded. What did he do? That antique. Wasn't it worth a fortune? Grandfather looked down at me in shock. Ran. Ojun's face had gone pale. Perfect. That was the reaction I wanted. He rushed forward. Do you know what you've done? I looked at him calmly, then pointed at the broken porcelain. Fake. Silence. This time, the entire hall became even quieter than before. Ojun froze. Grandfather slowly turned toward me. What did you say? Pointed again. Fake. A few guests exchanged confused looks. Someone whispered, he's only 2. Another person laughed nervously. How would he know? Exactly. That was what Ojun wanted everyone to think. He forced a smile. Mr. Lin. Children say strange things. Then he looked at me. He's probably just upset. Upset. No. I was having the best time I'd had since being reborn. Grandfather crouched beside the broken pieces. He didn't laugh. That was important. Unlike everyone else. He took me seriously. He picked up one fragment. Then another. His expression slowly changed. Ojun noticed. Mr. Lin. Grandfather didn't answer. He studied the glaze. Then the base. Then the markings. The smile disappeared from his face. I could almost see the moment he realized the truth. Finally, he looked up. This isn't authentic. The room erupted again. What? Impossible. Ojun brought a fake. Several guests moved closer. A few people who clearly knew antiques began examining the fragments. One elderly man adjusted his glasses. The aging is artificial. Another guest nodded. The markings are wrong too. Then came the sentence Ojun definitely didn't want to hear. This is a reproduction. Every eye in the hall turned toward him. His face tightened. For the first time since arriving, he had no perfect smile. Grandfather stood. His voice was calm. Too calm. Mr. O. Ojun immediately said, there must be some misunderstanding. Of course, that was always his favorite defense. Grandfather held up one broken fragment. You brought this to my 70th birthday. I bought it through someone I trusted. Ojun forced out a laugh. If it's fake, then I've been deceived too. I almost rolled my eyes. Exactly as expected. Blame someone else. Act innocent. Walk away clean. Same man. Same tricks. But this time, things weren't going as smoothly. Someone in the crowd whispered, would a man like Ojun really fail to verify a gift this expensive? Another answered, especially for the Lin family. The whispers spread quickly. That was the beauty of public humiliation. You didn't need to prove every part of the scheme. You only needed people to start doubting. And once wealthy people smelled dishonesty, they remembered it. Ojun knew that too. His jaw tightened. Then his eyes dropped toward me. For the first time, there was real hostility in them. I stared back. No fear. No hesitation. Then I stuck out my tongue. Several people laughed. Jun looked like he wanted to tear the room apart. But what could he do? Fight a 2-year-old. Beautiful. Grandfather suddenly laughed. Not at Jun. At me. He bent down and picked me up. Ran. He looked delighted. Your grandpa's lucky star. I wrapped one arm around his neck. He pointed toward the broken porcelain. If you hadn't smashed that thing, I might actually have accepted it. Exactly. You're welcome. Grandfather continued. From now on, when I buy antiques, you're coming with me. The guests laughed. My sisters immediately protested. Grandpa, he's 2. He can't even reach the display cases. I smiled. Let them laugh. Only I knew what had really happened. This wasn't luck. It wasn't a child's tantrum. And it definitely wasn't an accident. This was my first strike. Jun had killed me once. He had destroyed everything I built. In my previous life, I never saw the final betrayal coming. But now, I knew what kind of man he was. I knew how he thought, how he lied, how he attacked. And most importantly, he had no idea who I was. That made me dangerous. Very dangerous. Jun finally forced himself to speak. Mr. Lin, I'll have another gift delivered. Grandfather barely looked at him. No need. That single sentence was colder than any insult. Jun's face stiffened. He gave a short nod, then turned away. As he walked toward the exit, he looked back at me one last time. Our eyes met. He didn't understand why, but I could tell. He would remember me. Good. I wanted him to. I lifted my tiny hand and waved. Bye. His expression became even worse. I almost laughed. In my previous life, I had needed entire teams of lawyers and executives to fight people like him. This time, I had destroyed his plan with 2 hands and a porcelain vase. Being 2 years old had its advantages. After Jun left, the banquet slowly returned to normal. Everyone kept talking about what had happened. Some praised grandfather for spotting the fake. Others laughed about the genius baby who had smashed it first. My family surrounded me again. Shuyang poked my cheek. Did you really know it was fake? I looked at her. Yes. She froze, then narrowed her eyes. You're getting scary. Good. Maybe she would finally stop calling me ugly. Yanchu stood nearby. She didn't laugh. She simply watched me quietly. Her eyes were thoughtful. Too thoughtful. That made me slightly nervous. Feng thought I was just a spoiled child. Most adults thought I was unusually clever. But Yanchu, she kept looking at me as if she knew there was something else behind my eyes. Something older. Something I was hiding. For now, she said nothing. Neither did I. Grandfather carried me toward the center of the hall. People began gathering for the birthday cake. Everyone was smiling again. Everyone except me. Because deep inside, I was thinking about Jun. Today, I had embarrassed him. Nothing more. It wasn't revenge. Not really. Not compared to what he had done to me. But it was a beginning. A small one. And I had something now that I never had in my previous life. Time. I was only 2 years old. Jun thought he had just been humiliated by a strange little boy. He had no idea that the person he once killed had come back. I looked toward the door he had disappeared through, then smiled. Enjoy your peace while it lasts, because this time, I remember everything. The fake antique incident changed the entire mood of the banquet. First, everyone had come to celebrate grandfather's 70th birthday. Now, almost every conversation was about me. The boy knew it was fake. 2 years old. Impossible. Then how did he know? I sat in grandfather's arms, pretending not to hear any of it. Let them wonder. The more people thought I was simply lucky, the better. Grandfather, however, had already made up his mind. He lifted me slightly and laughed. From now on, Ran is my lucky star. Several guests smiled. My sisters immediately crowded around. Shuyang crossed her arms. Grandpa, you're spoiling him too much. I looked at her. You jealous? She froze. The whole family went silent. Then Mother laughed. Oh, now that he can talk, we're all in trouble. Exactly. Shuyang leaned closer. Say that again. I smiled. Jealous. She reached for my cheeks. I immediately hid behind grandfather. Everyone laughed. For the first time that day, the tension finally disappeared. Grandfather cut the cake. My father stayed beside Mother. My twin sister tried stealing frosting with her fingers. My sisters argued over who got to feed me, and Shu Yanchu stood nearby, quietly watching everything. For a while, I almost forgot about Oh Jun. Almost. Later, when most guests had begun leaving, Yanchu found me alone near the gift table. She looked down at me. Ran. I looked up. What? She paused. I still wasn't used to hearing my own voice. Apparently, neither was she. You really knew that antique was fake. It wasn't a question. I blinked. Yes. Her eyes narrowed slightly. How? There it was. The dangerous question. I pointed at the broken pieces still being cleaned away. Ugly. Yanchu stared at me. Then I added. Didn't like it. She clearly didn't believe me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she crouched so we were almost eye level. You're strange. I frowned. You're strange. Her lips moved slightly. Almost a smile. You're too. So, now she actually smiled. I froze. For some reason. Seeing the normally cold Yanchu smile still had more effect on me than I wanted to admit. She gently tapped my forehead. Nothing. Then she stood. Just don't do anything dangerous. I watched her walk away. Interesting. Everyone else saw a clever little boy. Yanchu was starting to see something more. I would have to be careful around her. Very careful. That night, the mansion finally became quiet. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My twin sister was already asleep beside me. The birthday banquet felt like a dream. I had spoken for the first time. Grandfather had celebrated his 70th birthday. I had seen Yanchu again. And most importantly, I had found Oh Jun, the man who killed me. In my previous life, I had spent years building an empire. I believed intelligence was enough. Money was enough. Power was enough. I was wrong, because in the end, the person who destroyed me wasn't stronger. He was simply someone I trusted. By the time I realized what was happening, it was already too late. This life would be different. I rolled onto my side. The room was warm, safe. Outside, I could hear Mother talking softly with Father. Someone laughed in the hallway, probably one of my sisters. I closed my eyes. In my previous life, I had everything except this. A home, people waiting for me, people who cared whether I smiled, people who would love me even if I never became powerful. That was something Oh Jun could never understand. And it was something I wouldn't let anyone take away. Not again. I thought about the way he had looked at me after the antique shattered. Angry, confused, suspicious. But he still didn't know the truth. He didn't know that the man he once killed was alive again. He didn't know that I remembered his face, his methods, his weaknesses, everything. I smiled in the darkness. Today, I had only ruined one small plan. That wasn't revenge. Not yet. Real revenge would take years. And that was fine, because this time, I wasn't desperate. I wasn't alone. And I wasn't running out of time. I was 2 years old. I had an entire lifetime ahead of me. An entire lifetime to grow, to learn, to become stronger than I had ever been before. And when the day finally came, Oh Jun would understand exactly who he had made an enemy of. My twin sister shifted beside me. I pulled the blanket over her, then closed my eyes. For now, I would be a child. I would stay with my family. I would grow up. And I would wait, because the best revenge wasn't rushing at your enemy. It was letting him live peacefully, without realizing that the person he feared most was already standing right in front of him. Today was only the first move. The real game had just begun.